Alright, so as you can see, we've got Mr. Keegan, Simon Keegan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We've met before. So we said we're bringing you on this one on the third issue, the third Guardian. You know, it's not in an order where we're saying Steve's first, Scott's second, you're third, because otherwise that means I'm fourth.
Yeah.
So, but this is the third issue we're introducing to Simon. Now, first of all, I'll tell you how he's important for the magazine, okay? When these words hit the pages that you're reading, that maybe I've wrote or some other people that have wrote are not very good at writing, he makes it legible so you can understand what I'm saying. I'm useless at punctuation and anything to do with that. So, you know, he makes me look good. He puts it. He also edits for magazines already, for the Mirror.
I work for the Mirror at the moment.
You've also worked for every other paper I think I've read in the past.
Yeah.
So that's why I know he was important to bring into a magazine, because he's an actual real life editor already. So that's why we brought him in. But to start the interview off, you guys are going to know a little bit about him, okay? So why is it important for you to be involved in the magazine?
I think for me, martial arts, I've always wanted to just do martial arts properly. I want to teach martial arts properly, and I want to do a magazine properly for people. I don't want it to be full of adverts, full of just sponsorship. I want it to be something that's interesting, something that you learn about martial arts from it.
Yeah.
And whether it's history or whether it's technical, and just something serious, really. I know I can have fun in it, but I want people to read it and go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's good. Can't wait for the next issue.
So you say the word serious. You take your training serious, don't you?
Yeah. I don't take myself serious, but
you don't. But your actual training, when you're involved and once you've bowed in.
Yeah, definitely.
Does it mean something?
Yeah, you know, I'm not there to make money. I'm not there to have the biggest class. I just want to teach karate properly, because if you're going to do it properly.
So going on the properly, I was involved in karate. I talked to you. You know, if you watched me, you'd probably say he looks like a karate boy. If you talked to me, you'd go, he maybe knows nothing. You know, because we didn't have the depth of it. So when you say teach karate properly, what do you mean? What determine a proper club to a non-proper karate club?
Well, for me, first of all, there's all different flavours of karate. You can have freestyle, or you can have kickboxing, modern, traditional, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing freestyle karate or whether you're doing traditional goju karate. You should do what's true to your art.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've never been in the ring, don't teach kickboxing. You know, if you don't know how to do goju kata, don't teach goju.
So just teach honestly with what you know.
Absolutely.
So this is getting down to now. What do you know? So who are you? What do you do? I know you tradition.
Yeah.
You are traditional. So,
yeah. Well,
have you got some history for them?
I've got some history, but first of all, I think what's more important to me in martial arts is that it's effective, and I think that people think that you can't have the two.
I agree. People will think that.
Yeah.
I thought that for a long time.
People think of, especially with karate, people think of traditional karate as what they've seen in the 60s and 70s and 80s, punch, kick, block. Yeah. You know, but if you go back beyond that to, you know, the pre-war, when karate was a pure fighting system, it was obviously very effective, and people also they'll see things like MMA, which is great for what it is, but MMA is not street fighting. But people think because it's got less rules, it's close quarters, and you can hit when they're on the ground and things like that. And people say, well, that would never work in the UFC. But it's not designed to work in the UFC. If you want to do something that works in the UFC, do MMA.
Do UFC stuff.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to do something that works in judo, do judo. But to me, what karate was originally for in the 1800s and the early 1900s was a self-protection system, and that's what it should be, and that's what everything you do in karate is geared up for. Whether it's your basics, your kata, everything should be moving towards being effective, more effective at self-defense or combat.
So you'd say your end product then, if you get some kid that trains with you and he comes out of his, you know, that little golden moment of the black belt, you'd expect his end product to be, he can handle himself on the street.
Yeah, I think.
So you definitely handle.
You know, it depends who he comes up against, doesn't it? But I think that everything we do is geared towards that. You know, you're never going to give me
There's no guarantee.
a 7-stone guy, and if he gets attacked by Mike Tyson, he's going to win. You know, everything's dependent on the situation, but everything we do is geared towards that reality of self-defense, of combat. You can't give the student everything. You know, like you've said, you say you've got a fighter or you've got a runner, and you're never going to make a fighter out of a runner. And that's the thing. If somebody hasn't got that instinct to defend themselves, there's only so much of that I can give them.
So this is where it gets good with the karate side. You see, it's got many different faces. You put someone into UFC, and he's not a fighter, he gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Dead and then.
Yeah.
And you know, he just shouldn't be there. But you can have people involved in karate who are not fighters, who are still beneficial and are
That's
still...
right.
Because this is it with the karate, there's the knowledge side, there's the history side,
Yeah.
and then there is what everyone, student and every other man and his dog out there thinks, it has to be applicable on the street. So how do you train someone differently, or do you train them differently if you get someone who you go, you don't want this for fighting, you know, they're not interested in fighting?
Well, I think I'm not interested in fighting. You know, I'm not a cage fighter, and I don't work in a job where I have fights on a regular basis. But I'd like to think that, you know, if I do find myself in that situation, I'd have a better chance of defending myself than prior to having trained, and that's what I'd like for my students. And I've taught people who are doormen, I've taught people who are in the police, I've taught soldiers and things like that. And the feedback is good, and they bring feedback to me as well. And people's self-defense needs are different. You know, I've got a student who's joining the police, and he said to me, "What I need you to show me is some throws where you put the person on the stomach," which is not as common in martial arts, because if you do judo, everything puts them on the back, because that's how you score a point. But when you're in the police, you want him to be on his front so you can handcuff him. So that's his needs are different. And you know, yourself, if you're a doorman, your needs are different.
You get to isolate. You see, you've got thousands of little tricks and bits in your karate.
Yeah.
And you can isolate it for any need.
And you've got to be able to account for what you're doing. So that's the thing. We approach everything that we do in the karate like that. So when we're doing a kata, start with the first kata, start with the first movement. We look at realistic self-defense applications, the bunkai, and so on.
And you do teach that?
Yeah, it's a big part of what we do.
See, go back around about 15, 20 years ago. Well, 20 odd years ago when I started, not every club did the bunkai. I'd say that 50% didn't understand what the word was. So we were just moving around in patterns, which is what hurt my head, especially when you say, "What's that for?" We don't, just do it. And I go, I don't do anything I don't understand.
It's very common, because you get people to think that the kumite that they do is representative of fighting. So they're all bouncing about, and they're about 6 foot away from each other, and they're going in with a punch, go, like that, and back out again. So they never get to use things that were intended to be used close quarters. So when you see these kinds of movements, you know, they're intended to be used close quarters. And karate always had a lot of elbows, knees, headbutts, throws, ripping techniques, tearing techniques. But they often, with the karate, they come in much later in the kata. So if you do Shotokan, for example, you know, you do a Heian Shodan, block, punch, and people just, I don't block like that when I'm sparring. So they miss things. But then when you see the higher katas, and they've all got all these little intricate hand movements in them, this is where often the bunkai comes in, you know, and we talked about that a few weeks ago.
We did. Do you think clubs now, you see, because karate, it hit the big point, didn't it, you know, where Karate Kid comes out, everyone's training it, and it's been, it's been pushed to the back a bit. If you talk to the public and they go, you know, what style are you doing, you mention karate, you get that, well, when do you think it's going to come back to the pinnacle and it's going to be looked upon as what it originally was, you know, an all-rounder?
I don't know really. I think all martial arts have their day, and in this country it was jiu-jitsu at first, and then in the 50s it was karate, and then obviously kung fu with Bruce Lee. People want to do what's cool. That's the thing.
Do you think karate will become cool again?
I don't know. I thought maybe it would when you had Machida in the UFC, who was pretty cool, and he became UFC champion, you know, and he was Shotokan, and I think he was a good advert for him.
I keep asking the questions when we do these interviews that I want to know. And I suppose I should be asking questions for the viewers, but none of them are here to tell me what they want to ask. So that's why I get to ask what I want to ask, and you just have to listen to it. So guys, we'll get back to this. History, right? Give us your history in your training, you know, which will go from when you started, your first class, to building up to that golden thing of everyone talks about, grades.
Okay.
So give us your history, Simon.
Started being taught stuff by my dad. I think you did as well. Your dad had done judo. So my dad did judo when he was at school.
First start, yeah.
Jiu-jitsu. About 1959, 1960 he did that. So obviously when you're a kid you fight with your dad and everything. So, but you know, I'd get an ogoshi and an osotogari and things like that. So I did that, and then it was boxing next that I was interested in. I think it was probably when Rocky IV come out. So
Boxing was your first taste?
Yeah, I was in a boxing club in Wigan, and I used to do it. My dad had his garage was a dojo, you know, with bags and stuff like that, and in my granddad's back garden as well, I used to have my bags there. And my granddad had been taught to box when he was a kid by his dad and his granddad and things like that. So that was it. It was informal. There was a cracking karate club nearby, but I never went to it because.
Why not?
I think what
Is
it was
because why we don't go as well, and why you get this image?
Yeah,
about
it was the perception, you know. To me, you know, like my great uncle was a jiu-jitsu black belt in the 1940s, my granddad's brother, and it was hard, you know, and the stuff that he did was ripping, tearing, breaking, you know, it was real, you know, especially guys who'd been through the war and stuff like
Different
that.
breed.
Yeah, and you know, I trained with semi-pro boxers and things like that, and I was used to hitting something. So when I had school friends who were doing goju, which was basically like what I'd seen in Karate Kid, you know, I didn't appreciate it. And I thought I'd go past the dojo, I'd see them doing a lot of kneeling down, I'd see them doing a lot of kata, and I'd say to the kids in school, what's all that about? And they'd go, don't know, it's just kata.
Yeah.
I think, well, that doesn't look very interesting
That's
to
like
me.
a dance, that.
Yeah, I just I couldn't get my head around it. And my dad went out to China to work. My dad works in shipping, so he used to go to China and stuff like that. And he went with my uncle, and my uncle was a Shotokan black belt with an Oida. Very hard man, Geordie, and he got banned from karate for brutality. You know, he would
in UK.
In the UK, yeah,
they wouldn't get banned in Japan, would you, for brutality?
No, they wouldn't
let understand that word.
They wouldn't let him fight in St George's Hall in Liverpool because of his tactics. Because to him it was martial, it wasn't an art.
Yeah,
So you know, his favourite kata was Teki or Naihanchi, and you know, he'd show me bits of it, but it was purely, this is for ripping his arm off, or this is someone's got a knife and you like that, you know. Yeah. So it was only when I was about 15, 16 that I actually joined a karate club. Yeah. So that's 20 years ago now, but that was when I joined a karate club and I got the formal side of things.
Did you instantly, when you walked into that karate club, appreciate it?
Yeah, because it wasn't white suit, kata.
So which karate club was this? Do you remember?
Steve Buller Bushido Academy. But it was cool to me. That's why people started, because it was cool. We just wore black t-shirts, black pants, and you know, we did a lot of self-defense, chokes. When you're 15, 16, that's brilliant. You know, we're doing throws, the judo side, grappling on the floor. It was karate, judo, aikido, kickboxing, boxing. We'd get the boxing gloves on and knock 10 bells out of each other, end up getting
good solid like training.
That. It was good, and it was knackering, and you know, I finished the class and my gi was wringing wet, and I trained with him for about 8 years, and it was a great start in martial arts for me, and I subsidised my training with learning about all the different arts as well, so trying to take the jiu-jitsu further.
So you didn't do karate and just stick to it, you still had an open mind at that point?
Yeah, well I did.
Well, you started with an open mind by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I did really from my old fella, and my old fella was always into like Chinese philosophy, the Tao Te Ching and things like that. And I started doing Chinese martial arts as well.
You see, that's the next part that we've got for you, which is where you just, you know, you can make me feel like a 2-year-old kid again. Your knowledge is extensive. So you're very red, aren't you?
Yeah, well, you are too, but you just
But
died it.
not the Japanese arse. I mean, when I talk about it, it's almost as if I can ask you a question about someone and you can not just tell me their art and the history, but what he had for dinner at 12 o'clock on a certain day. It's like, you're very well read. So
I'm not good at anything. I couldn't put shelves up or something. So,
but you enjoy that side,
I love it.
research.
Yeah, I love that side, and that was something. I started Tai Chi when I was about 19, maybe something like that, and that was something that the Tai Chi teacher instilled in us, was the culture and the lineage. Lineage was everything, and when
it should still be.
It is in karate as well.
Yeah.
But in the Tai Chi, we did a lot of single posture training, so you're standing there like that for 20 minutes with your legs wobbling and shaking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's telling stories about Taoism and about Chan Sen Feng and Yang Lu Chan and Sun Lu Tang, and you're absorbing it, and you're just becoming part of that culture of the art that you're doing. So this is why I couldn't go and teach Thai boxing or something, because I'm not part of that culture.
Yeah.
And that's for me what
you can see it, appreciate it, play with it. But
yeah,
you're not teaching it.
exactly. I could. There's a pair of shorts in this shop I could buy and put them on.
Don't do that.
And to a beginner, you can't see my legs. To a beginner, I could pass for Thai boxing, because you do the punches, get your knees up and stuff like that. But it wouldn't be real.
And
it wouldn't
in
be
yourself,
genuine.
you'd be lying past.
Yeah, but people do, and that's what annoys me in martial arts.
See, this is what I said about with teachers. I was talking to Zach this morning about it. Find a martial arts class that you walk into where you do all the moves, but you have no history given to you. I think it's an empty art. So, like I said, Zach, you can't teach just moves, but there's a teaching, and I go to so many classes and not a word gets said by the instructor.
Yeah.
I always like to start with a little bit of a chit chat, throw it in the middle. And I talk a lot, you know this by now. So, but I think that's a massive part of martial arts, the talking.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I didn't get, which is why I said if you find, which is the next one, about people starting out in the martial arts, what's important, and everyone says the same, find a good club. How do you find a good club? Well, you research and you do this. But, the last clubs I'd have researched, I think it had still shown up that it was a big club because it'd have had hundreds of students training with it. But you know what? I didn't get a single lesson in that club. I got the moves. I'm not a single lesson. I think if I'd have gone to your first classes and I was being told stories, it'd have changed me a bit different, and I'd be on that road rather than the one that I ended up going on. So do you do that in your classes when you're teaching your students? You think it's important to?
Do you know, I don't give them history lessons really,
No.
and that I think people expect that I must come into my classes and say, Todei Sakugawa, 1756, Koshanka got off the boat, and I don't really, because they can go on the internet and read that. They can read that in my blogs or whatever. Yeah. What we do is quite practical in class, and that's what I want to give them. And if they're paying for an hour and a half's karate, I'll talk a little bit and I'll put things in context. But really, what I want them to be doing is karate and training. Yeah, and I don't want to give them like an hour of circuit training and then half an hour's karate. Just give them the martial arts that they're.
Well, there's a teaching behind them moves, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
There's a big teaching behind them. So I say I get beginners and I just get moving, get your legs moving, get your hands moving.
Yeah, that's
Shut
the
up,
thing.
don't talk, move.
Yeah.
Get a little bit higher through the grades. By the time you produce a black belt, do you think they should be knowing the history? In other words, could you pass a black belt in karate who knows every single move in the book, but lacks the knowledge of where it come from? Would that still be classed as a black belt, or would you class that as a bit of cheating?
I've had black belts like that who are not really interested in it. If you
but
have
still
to,
worthy of
that's
a black
fine.
belt, are they?
I think so.
Karate,
yeah. If you're a chef, you don't need to know the history of spaghetti bolognese if you can make it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like to know the culture and I like to pass it on. But I'd like my students to be honest. And if somebody says to them, "Can you tell me where this kata comes from?" I'd rather they just say, "That's sensei, that one he might know."
Yeah.
And that's really that's something I've always had from my other teachers is the stuff that they've always taught has always been quite practical. That's where I've been quite lucky. When I was 21-ish, Bob Carruthers took me under his wing. He was a very, very practical Shotokan man who I trained with for a long time. Yeah. When I was about 23, Rainer Parsons, who's Goju-Ryu, and again, just dismantled my karate and put it back together again. Yeah. And training with the Japanese masters, which I have, and the Chinese masters on seminars and things like that is nice to do because you're experiencing it. But where I've been lucky is to have teachers who cared and took you under the
Took
wing,
you under the
and
wing,
spent
yeah.
time with you, you know, and like Bob used to come down to my class in his free time and teach me and my students, and you know, and just want to give the knowledge to me, and that's how I teach. You know.
See, this is martial arts. It's giving. We saw a little thing on Facebook before, and it's a guy advertising his club. He's got some promotion coming up, and you know, one of the words when he said, "So if any of you kids in my class want to get involved, just go up and let me know what your name is." And I thought, what do you mean? Let you know what your name is? It's your student.
Yeah.
You should know everything about your student. You know,
Yeah.
if you've been with you for, especially at the 6 months mark, I know the name, what they like, what they don't like.
Well, we were talking about this as well with language people use when they start referring to the students as clients.
Clients, this is started. See,
and the martial arts industry.
Packing in.
You know.
it's one of them. You want to just unscrew his head for saying it.
Yeah.
You see?
Exactly, because it shows the mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and,
it does.
You know, and that's something I'm not interested in.
So as an instructor, you take it seriously. We've got a responsibility, haven't we? This is why I said the magazine, right? We do the history. You can tell with Simon, he's got history. If you get in touch with him, ask him a question about martial arts, he'll give you the answer. If he can't, he'll be honest and say, look, I'll research and he'll find it for you. And that's what I like about what you do. Now, with the magazine, we just try and be honest.
Yeah.
We're not going to please everybody, are we? You know, there's going to be people sitting there we're not really interested in pleasing everybody. No. We just want to give our honest teachings, honest martial arts. Now, with the teaching that you do, what's the most important part of it, do you think? You know, to you as an instructor, what do you get your buzz from? I know what makes me happy when I leave a class.
I just like people expressing themselves on the mat, making the karate their own, and when they start coming up with things and suggestions, you know, they'll say, I was looking at bunkai, you know, that technique in Ian Yondan, what if the guy's punching you and you've done this? You know, and that's what I like when they start making it their own and they start specialising. Something I've always encouraged is specialising. You know, if you've got, you all learn the same basics, but then if somebody shows a flair for using the tonfa, let them do it. Let them do it, yeah. Say you go off, you learn that, and then when beginners come and they want to do tonfa, they go to you.
Because not everyone's the same, are they? You can't teach them all the same. Everyone learns differently.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's good. Now, like I said, we're gonna wind it up this interview. You know, the reason we don't do hours on me, you, and Scott and Steve is because you're gonna see us while you're reading this magazine for the rest of the next eternity. You know, till we're gone. So this is to give you a little bit of an intro on, you know, what Simon's background is, and it's very good traditional. Right? Do you want to tell them? You know, all the golden bits now of your instructors, the people you trained with. Who's been, apart from your dad, will be a major influence in your martial arts? Who's had the big influences? You know, and it's not putting all the rest of them down, is it? It's just who's influenced you.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, obviously, being like a father to me.
That's it. That's good.
First sense, I can't say anything bad about him. Steve Buller taught me for about 9 years. Bob Carruthers, Rainer Parsons. In terms of masters, I mean, I've always looked up to Kanazawa. Never trained with him, but I just there's something about him. Yeah. Patrick McCarthy as well, who they'll see elsewhere in issue 3. Again, I haven't trained with him much, but Patrick McCarthy, his research, his bunkai, and his approach to karate has been a massive influence on me. Terry Wingrove as well. When I was about 25, 26, trained half a dozen times with Terry Wingrove, and he just gave me an epiphany, which was, if it doesn't work, don't do it. And the language he put it in for me was, give it the Tesco test. You know, you're in Tesco's, you're next to the baked beans, someone attacks you, you're going to do a jumping, spinning back kick on them. No sense in. Right, well, why are you teaching it then? And he made me look at what I was already teaching, you know, because I've been teaching since I was 20 or something, you know, made me look at what I was teaching to, you know, I know that doesn't work. Why am I teaching it? Because of tradition. Well, let's maybe go back and think, well, what was the original purpose of that? How can I make that effective? And streamlining it, you know, in that kind of Bruce Lee way, really, discarding what's useless. Yeah.
So we've got quick fire questions now to finish. I like putting people on their toes. Where's your club? If people want to find you, where are you?
It's here. Upstairs.
It's here. Now we're in an iconic shop at the moment.
We are.
You know, I'll do a little clip later on. Most of you, especially if you're in the Manchester area,
Yeah,
they'll know this shop.
They
They'll
know
recognise
we're
it.
on Newton Street near Piccadilly, and it was called Van Dang, and it's now called the Hakutora Academy, which I came up with that name, you know.
Is that the T-shirt one?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so that means white tiger in Japanese. And
What grade are you?
Fifth dan in karate. Yeah.
Do you hold any grades in any other styles?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu.
What grade?
Fourth dan.
Oh.
Tai Chi. We were looking at downgrades in Tai Chi and things like that as well, and trying to teach it in a more methodical way.
Do you still train? Are you still training?
Yeah. I mean, one guy that I really look up to is Phil Handyside. He's very ill at the moment, so get well soon, Sensei. He was actually my teacher's teacher, so Bob Carruthers, who I trained with for a long time, his sensei was Phil Handyside, who's an 8th dan, and he's like a mentor to me.
Yeah.
And he's been to my dojo as well. He graded me. He's been to our gradings as well. He trained with Kanazawa, Chichisu, Tomita, Kato. Really very, very good. Steve Rowe as well. His seminars.
Yeah.
He's just got that understanding of karate and Tai Chi and Iaido. So basically, all what I'm trying to do, he does.
Yeah.
But he's
Steve still enlightens you a little bit.
he does, yeah. As well, he's such a nice guy, and he's so
Instantly, you felt at home and very
Yeah.
warm and welcoming.
Yeah.
I've never not seen him smile.
No, he's just such a nice guy and generous with his time, and
Yes.
I can go to him, and I do it all the time. I chat him on Facebook and I say, Steve, I was asking him the other week about a stance. I was going, Steve, I think my stances are a bit too deep. Do you think if I narrowed them I'd be able to use my core a little bit better? And stuff like that. Even now,
Yeah.
I can still go to him with really basic questions.
So that's another key thing that everyone needs to know. We're always learning, aren't you? Never ends, never stops. So we've got the Guardians. Like I said, this is our 3rd issue. Simon Keegan, introducing him to you. You'll see loads more. He's going to be looking after the traditional corner, aren't you?
Yeah.
And he's bringing in some great people for the magazine as well. He's looking after my writing and my spelling because I just can't do it. It's like being back at school again. That's what he looks like every time he has to edit my work, which is why video's probably better for me. So have you got any last little words for any of the viewers, and if they want to get involved in what you do, which is traditional martial arts?
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter what martial art you do, as long as you're with a good instructor and you're with a good person. So, we get asked that question all the time, don't we? Well, is Krav Maga any good? Is Judo any good?
Yeah.
Well, it depends who's teaching it.
Who's teaching and who's training?
And that's the thing, I don't think Shotokan is any better than Goju-ryu or anything like that, but I've fallen into it because of circumstances, and I've been lucky to find good teachers in it and things like that. And there's no bad martial arts. So and have faith in the system that you're doing. All of these martial arts have survived for a reason, and they were all put together for a reason. Nobody came up with a martial art in order to get the students killed.
I nearly said something when you said there's no bad martial arts. Because no, you're right, there are no bad martial arts, but there's bad clubs.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
So you stay away from them. And the easy way to find traditional clubs, I'd have a guess as well, in the traditional world, you all know each other. Is it like a close community? You talk to you can always point someone in the right direction.
To an extent as well, but look at the lineage as well. To give people an example, if you wanted to do BJJ, you'd expect them to trace back to the Gracies, maybe.
Yeah,
and it's the same with Shotokan. I can usually tell. I watch somebody do Shotokan, and I can tell if they've come from Kanazawa or Inoida by the way they move.
Yeah.
KUGB clubs move slightly different, Inoida, and stuff like that. And if you do an art, you should have lineage in that art. If I wanted to learn how to do badminton, you wouldn't go to a guy who says, well, I've done a bit of tennis, but I've seen badminton on the telly, but I'm teaching it anyway.
Yeah, it's relatively the same. They've got a bat.
Yeah, you do that, I think. You want to go to someone who's an expert in what they do.
Well, this is what I said, the world's got smaller. I've said it in the past 2 interviews. We have cars now. Get in them and travel. It's worth travelling, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in Manchester, and the good thing with this place you've got here, there's not just you teaching in this venue.
No, there's brilliant instructors here.
Fantastic
We've got
instructors.
Wing Chun, Muay Thai, kickboxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jeet Kune Do, and we all train together as well. My students say I want to do MMA, and I say right, go downstairs on Tuesday night then. It's great.
You see, this is it, guys. We're going to wrap it up. And my last little bit is, because I don't like being too soft with them, you'd have some people that go, well, I've got a club right on the corner, and it's just easier to train here. Well, what a warrior spirit you have. What a warrior. You know, so what, getting in your car's too much effort and hassle. Well, it's just in town and there's nowhere to park my car. What a warrior. You know, you go to that corner shop. To me, if you're serious about your martial arts, you know, do what he said. Check your history, check the clubs out, and be willing to travel.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to travel. You've got so much, you've got a wealth of knowledge in the UK at the moment. It's not like 50 years ago where it was all Eastern Europe coming up with and you've got a massive wealth of knowledge now. You've got, like I said, Keith Priestley, I was talking to him yesterday. If I had a cat club next to me, I'd drive to Yorkshire and train with him.
Yeah.
I'd be there. So guys, search your clubs out properly. If you're getting involved in martial arts, be willing to travel. Great place here in Manchester, okay, gives you a little plug. This is Simon Keegan, okay. It's very, very important to the magazine that you guys are hopefully enjoying, okay. So I just want to thank you for your time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
And then as soon as we turn it off, we're going to get playing with some of these little babies, okay. So guys, thank you very much again, and we will see you when I'm on the interview next month, okay. Thank you.